excited to announce that Austin Ainge will be the new president of Utah Jazz basketball operations. We will open with remarks from Governor Ryan Smith and then turn the time over to Austin before we open up for questions. Ryan?
Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. Today's a great day for Utah Jazz basketball. It's an awesome opportunity to welcome Austin Ainge as our president of basketball operations. We've had this role open for some time, and we've been very methodical about it. And we're super excited that Austin and his family made the decision to come to Utah. Another bright, brilliant executive that we're bringing to the state and run our basketball program. So we couldn't be more excited. Ashley, myself, our group, in having him run basketball for the Utah Jazz, and specifically not anyone else. So we're excited to have you here. I think before I kick it over to Austin, I'm sure there's probably a lot of questions around organizational structure and design, and what I've learned in business and also in the NBA, that every organization's set up a little different. For us, Austin will be running the program. He's got final recommendation to myself on any decisions that need to be made. I think it's the job of both Justin, Danny, and myself to kind of plug into him. And so hopefully that alleviates quite a few questions of who kind of has the final decision on roster and management and personnel. His resume speaks for himself, speaks for itself. For 17 years, kind of growing up, either playing hoops, scouting, coaching, and particularly on roster management. I think it couldn't have come at a better time for where we're at as an organization, and we're just thrilled. I'm super excited that he's chosen to come back here after playing in Utah for 4 years, and we're super lucky to have you. So we're excited to get to work, man.
Thanks. I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Ryan. I wanted to kind of explain why I chose to do this, why I'm so excited about this opportunity. First thing is people. Ryan and Ashley, their passion, their leadership, their energy, their drive, they really, really want to do this right. And I couldn't think of better people to partner with. So, and then the management of the team and the coaching staff of the team. I used to share a wall with Will in Boston. We've known each other for a number of years and talked a lot of basketball. I'm a big believer in Will. Justin, I've known since 2009. Very excited to work with him and lean on him and learn from him. My father and I worked together for 14 years and had a lot of fun and a lot of success. Would love to try to duplicate
I take that success right now.
Yeah, and there's a whole great group of management people here. Some of them are right here with us. A lot of people I've known since they were 19, Avery Bradley and others. Anyway, there are a lot of great people. The next thing is the state, and specifically the fans. The passion here, it's not common, it's not everywhere in this NBA. And that passion is so infectious, and it pushes a team, it pushes a franchise, it holds us accountable. It puts pressure, good pressure, to succeed, and that was a huge draw for me. And then lastly, the situation of the team. We have a ton of optionality, a lot of future picks, a lot of things we can do. It's going to take a lot of work, but I can't wait to get started.
We have 2 microphones. If anybody has a question, please raise your hand, and then also please announce your name and outlet so Austin can get to know you.
Ryan Miller, KSL.com. Austin, you're coming in the middle of a rebuild. Kind of how do you approach that on how they've done things in the past and versus how you want to do things in the future?
Well, I'm learning a little bit how they did things in the past, but and I'll just try to add what I can. But it's really, there's a lot of ways you can execute it, but mostly it's just making a lot of good decisions over and over and over, right? 2 ways: second-round picks, first-round picks, trades, free agency. It's just making good decisions, stacking up good players, so you have more to work with. That's really the job. And so whether you're in the middle, the beginning, or the end of building a team, that's what you're doing every day, trying to make good decisions. And so that's what we'll try to do.
Dana Green with ABC4. Ryan just said you're going to have final say in personnel decisions, but how will you consult Justin and your father about making those decisions? And then maybe just discuss the dynamic you have with Danny and how you've worked together and what that dynamic is like.
Yeah, I mean, I plan on including DA, Justin, Will, and lots of people here, everyone. Like this is a team sport, both downstairs and upstairs, right? This is a team thing. Ryan will be super involved in everything, of course. We're going to have millions of conversations and argue and fight and research and work and watch and then get in a room and figure it out. And that's really how it works in all these organizations. And I mean, specifically with my father, we've been doing this since a kid, even, working together or separate teams, or before either of us were working with teams, talking about players, talking about ball. That's life, that's fun.
Ben Anderson, KSL Sports. Do you have, Austin, like an approach to how to build teams in the NBA of what you think is winning right now, where the league is headed, and how attainable that is?
Well, I can't tell you all the secrets. No, I mean, I really believe that it is kind of a boring answer, but I really believe it's just stacking good decisions, one on top of the other. And, a lot of times people see the big trade or the, big move, that big free agent signing or something as the end, but really that requires lots of diligent management to build up to that point, right? And so it's just about stacking good decisions together, and that's what we're going to try to do.
Ryan Miller, KSL.com. What was the process like of getting this job? When did you first contact each other? Well, yeah, kind of just take us through that whole thing.
Brian, do you want to do that one? Or do you want me to do it?
We can both do it. Why don't you start?
I got a text from Ryan. It said, "Hey, call me," or "Hey, I got a question. Can you call me?" And actually, I was in a meeting with new Celtics ownership for 2 hours, planning their entire offseason. And I got a text, so I couldn't respond for a while. When I got out, I called him. It was kind of an interesting conversation. I'll maybe let you take it from there.
Yeah, I think for me, it's something that we had always thought about within the organization with this role. When Danny came in, he was very clear that he did not want to be the president of basketball operations, and that's the role that he had. He wanted to be able to choose his spots at this phase of his career, but still had a lot to offer and value. And Danny can play business with us till he's 85, and Michelle doesn't want him in the house anymore, whatever it is. And when you have a Hall of Famer that's around, whether it's last week watching him post up Cody Williams down there, or whatever it is where he wants to go, I've always kind of wanted to get him in that role. And I would say that over the last 2 years, I think Justin and Danny have operated probably about as lean as any team in the organization and in the NBA, just with their roles and how they did it. So it'd been something that had been on my mind, but really it came to a conversation with me and Ashley and some of the folks in our group and said, who would you go get? What would you do? And I kept coming back to Austin. The challenge is I had no clue how Austin felt. And, they've been in a pretty epic championship window. It's clear where his role was and what he meant to that organization. It was also very clear that not only at the beginning of last year, but this summer, his name was starting to float around in a lot of these other opportunities to run teams. And, kind of had a pit in my stomach last year when I saw that, because I always had this in the back of my head. He really needed to know that I felt that way. And I don't think that he'd ever known that. So I called him and told him how I felt and how I saw this. And he called me back after that meeting and said, "I can't get this out of my head. Was this something that you would think about now?" I was like, "Whenever you're ready." And called me back the next morning and said he was.
I kind of said, if we're going to do this, now is that I want to be a part of. These are big decisions coming up, and if this is something we want to talk about, it now feels like the right time.
So the biggest challenge for me was I had to call Danny, who was not in town, said, "I hired your son." And Danny and I have built a lot of trust over the last 15 years, and I didn't know at that point whether I had completely lost all trust or he was going to say that was the right move. But, well, here we are. And so I couldn't be more excited. And then just knowing Jay-Z and how much of a team player and how great their skill sets complement each other. You know, I think from the outside, oftentimes in the NBA, you know, you see that, oh, someone made that trade or someone did this. I've never been part of a decision in the league where it's not a group and a team effort, just like we're trying to build on the court. And so I'm really excited. We got better. The Jazz got better with this move. And I'm really excited for it going forward. So that's kind of how it happened. You know, fortunately, Austin felt as good about our situation as I felt about him. And things happen quick. And so I also would be remiss if I didn't thank Brad Stevens and the Celtics, because when I called Brad, just the way he handled it, knowing that that was probably not an easy call for him to receive, given where they're at and what Austin meant to that organization. He was also so excited and saying that it was the best part of his job that he gets to see this, and that it was a super smart move, and he hopes that Austin still feels as strongly about the trades with Utah as he did from this side. So
he tried to negotiate with me on like immediately. It was great. It was great. It was great. As DA did when he left and came here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ben Anderson, KSL Sports. You mentioned big decisions coming up. Like in the next 3 weeks, you've got a top 5 pick and you can start negotiating extensions for some of the players. Is 3 weeks enough time to have intimate knowledge of like what is going on there? Because, you know, the Celtics are picking, what, 28th or whatever it is?
Correct, yeah.
How familiar are you with the 5th pick and then the players already on this roster?
Yeah, I mean, luckily, you know, I've always believed, and we've always done it, where you evaluate everyone, you know, the whole draft. It is, you never know what trades come in on the clock. And so I've definitely spent a lot of time. I interviewed most of these young players at the combine already. I've put in the time all year on these guys, so I feel prepared. But certainly we'll crunch, and I can't wait to learn from all the great people in the Jazz organization and get their input and think through it. Big decisions. There'll be trade conversations, all these things. It's a very active time of year, so we got a lot to prepare for.
David Locke, Jazz Radio. Seems as though this season may have been the first time where the new collective bargaining agreement really began to put a stamp on the league and roster building. What did you learn from watching how the first season of this new collective bargaining agreement had an impact on how you roster build now?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. It's subtle differences. You know, it's still talent and teamwork and all the same things. I think some extensions and other contracts will be negotiated a little stronger. Bird rights used to matter a little bit more, to get a little bit into the weeds on this stuff, but I think it's a firmer cap, right? And so every dollar matters a little more. We used to care a lot about expiring contracts. We used to care a lot about holding on to players for potential trades, and really now the trades are easier, and it's more about the space and the room under the aprons. So that's the short answer.
Dana Green, ABC4. Austin, what is your perception of this current Jazz team, and how far away are they from becoming a legit playoff contender?
It's a great question. It'll just depend on how these guys develop and what other moves we make, right? It's a hard thing to predict. I think it's fair to say we got a lot of work to do.
Hi, Austin. Lauren Green, sideline reporter here at the Utah Jazz. It's nice to meet you. You mentioned the situation of the team, a ton of optionality as well in the upcoming years. What excites you about that and just being in that battle with the different people who are in this room and just in this organization?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moves, right? When you have a treasure trove of assets, there's a lot of things you can do. And we have young players we're excited about and see how they develop. There's a lot of different ways to go, hopefully up.
Sean O'Connell, ESPN 700. As someone correctly stated, it seems like a team in a rebuild, and some things were done this past season to potentially manipulate where the team would end up in the draft lottery odds. And unfortunately, some of that is dependent on luck, and the team got a little bit unlucky. So do you have a philosophy? What is your philosophy on, for lack of a better term, to be indelicate, tanking or, manipulating minutes and player performance in order to achieve better lottery odds?
We won't see that this year.
JP Chunga, UtahJazz.com. Ryan, when you look at the front office additions, Austin mentioned Avery Bradley, bringing in Danny. How have you seen the front office and the executive part add to the pool of talent that you already inherited with ownership?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime, and just like they're going to go through in Boston, anytime you kind of come in, you're starting over a little bit because you kind of sit down. It's actually a weird experience when you come in for the first time and take over because you really didn't choose anyone that's there. And, fortunately for us, I mean, Jay-Z and a couple of the other folks were just true team players, and they came in and said, hey, Jay-Z was a little bit of a mentor to me as we came in and was like, hey, I got you. Like, this is going to be crazy. We're not going to do anything rash. I mean, there's a lot of school of thoughts here. And then, when Danny was able to come in, it was just another step in that process. And this is a really big step because ultimately, this is Austin's show and we're all part of it. And, we're truly working as a team. But if I look at Will and his contract extension, I look at where Austin's coming in, continuity is really, really important to me. And I think the one thing that Jazz fans can take away from this is we're sitting in a really good spot up top. We've got to go match that on the court.
Austin, Jeff, right here, Fox 13.
With your connections to Utah, having played at BYU, is this a dream job for you? And what was that first conversation with your father after you accepted the position?
This is a dream. I mean, I've worked for a lot of years to have the opportunity to lead a team. Right. This is was the next evolution for me in my career, and we always, in the basketball business, we always say ownership is the most important advantage, and so be able to do this in Utah with Ryan and Ashley is very much a dream. DA and I have talked, multiple times a week forever, and he just, I can't remember, said something like, "This is awesome. It's going to be so fun." Yeah.
Kevin Reynolds, Salt Lake Tribune. This one's for Ryan. With how the draft lottery played out, does that change your approach to the rebuild and change your thinking on the rebuild at all, or are you guys going to stick the course?
I think Austin kind of answered that. I mean, I think, we've got smart people around the table, and they'll look at all the optionality that's in front of us. But, we're going to get a great player if we draft at 5. So I think that's kind of missed in all this, as disappointed as everyone was not to get the number 1 pick. I think, maybe something that isn't talked about enough is the talent that's in this draft, and we'll be prepared.
If you look at the playoffs and look at all the best players in the NBA and how many of them went number 1, it's better to have number 1. But there's a lot of other stars that came from all over the draft, and certainly the Jazz have a long history of second-rounders that have become all-stars, so it's not the only way to do it.
James Peterson, ESPN 700. There's a perception, Austin, that there's certain ways you can't build a team in Utah, which I'm sure you're aware of that perception. You obviously had a lot of success building it the way you did in Boston, you and your team there. That said, how much of how you went about roster construction there do you feel like you can duplicate here in Utah?
I think it's the same, honestly. I think this is a great place, and I think you build it the right way. Like I said, stacking good decisions over and over and over. And players want hope. They want to win. They want great culture. They want great coaching. They want great teammates. So that's what we have to give them.
Dane DeGreen, ABC4. For Ryan, can you define Justin Zanuck's role with the organization now after this?
Yeah, Justin's the GM of the organization. His role hasn't changed at all. And, I actually think that if you think about the skill set that Austin has, and, Jay-Z's skill set, they actually work really well. I mean, Austin came up from player coach, heavily into scouting and talent evaluation and roster construction. I think Jay-Z came up as an attorney or a lawyer into talent, much more managing players on that side, and has kind of come over to this side together. And if you look at where they meet up, and then you combine that with DA, who hopefully can pick his spots a little bit more, and have a little bit more depth there, as well as the demands on the league. I mean, we're supposed to be everywhere at once. I mean, we're supposed to be here watching our team while also tournaments are going on in the Big East and the Big 12, plus, overseas. I mean, I was just talking to Austin today about all the trips that he spent all over Europe, all over Australia, and we're all supposed to be everywhere. And so I think that, as I mentioned earlier, we got a lot better. I think the one commonality that you have between everyone is there's truly a good vibe and teamwork, and I think Will's a big piece of that, as well as the other parts of our organization, which is what I'm excited about.
Questions? Thank you both.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.